Hey there, it's Tom Ryan, founder and CEO of ICR. Before we get into the next episode, I wanted to ask that you subscribe to the show. It'll help us get even more unique and interesting guests on the podcast and in turn continue to educate management teams and the growing ecosystem that creates value for fast-growing private and public companies. And while you're at it, head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating. Very much appreciated.
I think the connective tissue between Y Brands and our consumer is listening. I don't think anyone has a successful business unless they listen to their consumers. And so I try to build everything we're doing around a listening model.
Brands don't exist in a vacuum. They thrive or fail on the connections they build with their customers. These relationships are what transform a business from just another name into a trusted partner.
We have an average, I think, of 2 million 5-star reviews, but we actually read reviews. We read competitor reviews, our reviews. We understand the pain points.
Being a public company can be hard. Small missteps can have outsized consequences. I'm Tom Ryan, founder and CEO of ICR, and over the last 25 years, we've helped thousands of companies understand and navigate the stock market and the media. We'll demystify these and other increasingly complex stakeholder groups so you can focus on what you do best, building your company and unlocking your true potential. This is Welcome to the Arena from ICR. Too often, brands get caught up in chasing trends and losing sight of the path to long-term growth. Game-changing, inspired products that address real customer needs will always outlast the flavor of the day. But every so often, a truly visionary company comes along that manages to do both. Today, we're sitting down with Steve Dunn and Diana Barnes from Y Brands. Steve is Y's CEO, founder, and chairman, and Diana, or DB as we like to call her, is Chief Brand Officer and Creative Director of the company. Y Brands is the parent company of baby lifestyle brand Munchkin, which Steve founded in 1990, as well as a new name in upscale home goods, Curio, which was co-founded by DB and Steve in 2023. A young father himself at Munchkin's start, Steve aspired to bring smart design into the nursery and found his passion in innovative product development and is now the primary inventor of the majority of over 350 patents. An investment banker turned entrepreneur, Steve holds a bachelor's degree from UC Berkeley and an MBA from Harvard Business School. As Chief Brand Officer, DB oversees global brand partnerships and manages the public relations, social media, and brand design teams for Munchkin and Curio worldwide. She joined Munchkin in 2014, and under her leadership, the brand design team has won over 100 top international awards. She's the creator and producer of Munchkin's top-rated parenting podcast, Roller Coaster, and was recently named one of the top 20 CMOs in the world by Fast Company. DB is a passionate advocate for animals and the environment and leads all Munchkin's CSR initiatives, including partnerships with the International Fund for Animal Welfare and Trees for the Future. She holds a BA from the University of Tennessee, a BFA in graphics packaging from the Art Center College of Design, and has completed several executive MBA programs at Harvard Business School. Let's enter the arena with Steve Dunn and Diana Barnes. Steve, tell us how you started Munchkin way back when. What did you see in the marketplace at that time to lead you to kind of say, hey, this is for me, I'm going to take this risk? And what was the initial driver of success?
Tom, I grew up in a household where my father was one of the lead tech venture capitalists. So I, over dinner table talk for my entire life, I was always hearing about new businesses. And when I became a father, I think I was looking for an outlet. I had followed my dad's steps and become a venture capitalist. And I just didn't find it was a creative outlet for my talents or my real interests. So I saw a real void in the market. At that time, there was 3 large players, Playtex, Gerber, and Evenflow. And it was kind of stale. There was not a lot of innovation going on. It was kind of a tougher time to launch a brand because there wasn't a direct-to-consumer. But I, found that even though the world didn't need new brands, it needed innovation, safer and better products that made parenting easier. And we launched with a line of bottles. I think we did $15 million in our first year. We soon found it hard to get products into some of the top retailers, so we really started focusing on innovation.
And what were some of, when you think about the first 5 years there for you, or 10 years, like what were the real obstacles you faced as you were kind of getting the business off the ground, getting the brand out there and getting known?
So Tom, every single year there were obstacles. We moved into a new warehouse, and our first day in the warehouse was the large Northridge earthquake that happened. So we had millions of dollars of damage to our facility and to our inventory on our first day in the warehouse. Couldn't keep up with production on a baby bottle line, and we invested in new tools that were made in New Jersey. We told Walmart that we'd be able to ship them in February or March. In December, the tools were being transferred to the airport to be shipped to us, and the truck got in a head-on collision, and the tooling went through and got embedded into a truck that hit them. Our tooling, which was, we waited 9 months from, was sitting in a junkyard. So earthquakes, car accidents.
Throw anything at you, you'll get through it. DB, you obviously saw something very special in Munchkin and decided to join about 10 years ago. Given your skill set and your career trajectory, what did you see in that opportunity and why did you jump at it?
I jumped at it because I saw the opportunity to tell an untold story and to reframe a narrative from a supplier-based model to a lifestyle brand. And I just thought that what was happening here, which was really a design company first, although nobody was really talking about that and had really discovered that as a way to frame up the company's cornerstone, I knew I could do that. So just claiming what was already here and building on that cornerstone.
That's awesome. Well, obviously, Munchkin has had a tremendous amount of success, and up pops an opportunity to create another brand called Curio. Maybe you can talk about the founding of that, what you saw in the marketplace, what got you guys just super energized to kind of come up with this brand and get out to the world with it.
I think like many things that we do here, it was just sort of a dream that kind of came true out loud, just thinking about what if and why does this particular thing in your house have to be so unattractive, and how can we lean in and leverage what we already do and take it to a more elevated place. For us, it felt like a natural progression of bringing to life what we wish we could see in our own homes. I mean, Zennials, this is a generation that's grown up with HDTV. They're very design forward thinking, especially through COVID. So for us, it just felt like a very easy and interesting and definitely challenging transition into another company.
We always had a lot of ideas that were non-baby related, and this was a great way of making some of those come true.
Yeah, and I think what seems to me is a really cool and intelligent move is creating an umbrella brand for what you have. Steve, you decided to create the parent brand called Y, and you've been doing this a really long time. Why was this the right time to kind of create Y brands? And how has it kind of changed the company culturally, operationally?
Tom, I have to give DB, this was one of her moonshot ideas at a retreat, but let's start with why. For us, why is an analysis tool. Everything starts with why, our innovation starts with why. We're going to be launching a new category where we're going to increase breastfeeding on a global basis. And that all starts with why is it so difficult for moms to meet their breastfeeding goals? So why just creates a platform for us to nurture, grow, make acquisitions, and grow different businesses that are different from the Munchkin business.
And I would add that that's really the vetting process here. It begins with why, everything we do. Why do we need does the world need another sippy cup? Why? And if we don't end with the why, then we don't do it. And so for us, that name took about 2 seconds to come up with. And we were shocked that that URL hadn't been taken. So to us, it was an obvious decision.
That is totally shocking, by the way, that wasn't taken, right? Steve, you alluded to this moonshot culture. DB, can you tell us what that means, moonshot culture? How does it contributed to, all the brands and now why in general?
The moonshot culture here really became part of our process in the E-team, our executive team, a couple of years ago. And Steve challenged us with coming up with a couple per year. We have offsites regularly. My first two were RD8, which is our new innovation think tank company, and then also Y. So the moonshot culture is something that we've kept as a continuum. And I think through the vetting process of the E-team, if it doesn't get shot down there, it comes to life very quickly. I mean, when I proposed Y and RD8, by the end of the year, we had both, and that the same year. And those were massive undertakings. But that's how quickly we respond to good ideas that are strongly vetted here. And our E-team, we're all pretty tough. We've been together. Our average tenure here for all 15 of us is about 11 years.
Yeah, so it's like a real team. Steve, maybe elaborate on RD8. Talk about the group of talent within that R&D group, and why is it so important to Y's success going forward?
The moonshot process plus RD8 is really focused on category creation, which is the ultimate revenue growth driver. And creating a better sippy cup or a better bottle brush, I'm still on somebody else's ladder and I'm just trying to go up to another rung. RD8 is about creating the future. It's like imagining 15 years ago how you're grabbing a cab and now you do it with Uber. We're providing a product that's going to allow mom to, actually see her breast milk flow while she's breastfeeding. It's going to do something that nobody thought could have been done before. So RD8, we have an investments in projects working in 2 different countries. We have a team that vets projects that are funded by RD8. We've made investments to work on an additive to help reduce the life of plastic in our products that are in landfills. So there is a number of different initiatives that are product-based, environmentally based, and it's a very high hurdle to become a RD8 project at Munchkin.
I wanted to ask, how does the whole ideation stage start? Like, how long does that take, or how many people are involved? Because most people don't know how these things happen.
Well, Tom, DB mentioned earlier on, every single employee at Munchkin is tasked in their job description with product development. We pay our employees a bonus if they come up with an idea that actually gets shipped to a consumer. Some will say, well, gee, I'm in accounting, I don't know how to do this. Our facilities manager came up with an idea to add a light to a stroller. His name's Pietro, and it's called Night Owl. We just launched it. So we make it a company-wide initiative. We listen to consumers. We read a ton of reviews. We have an average, I think, of 2 million 5-star reviews, but we actually read reviews. We read competitor reviews, our reviews. We understand the pain points. But a lot of our innovation is not focused on making a product better. It's making a product that doesn't exist. That's what we're most excited about, and that's what's going to really drive revenue growth and margin expansion for us in the coming years.
When you are dealing with your RD8 group, probably a bunch of very smart and creative people. How do you kind of rein in people who are involved in the process with having to deal with the realities of financial constraints and ROI and all the boring stuff that happens in finance and accounting?
We kind of ignore finance and accounting, but we counter that with trying to fail quickly. Sometimes new information, or we have a great idea for a product right now that we're working on, but we're not sure we can get to the accuracy rate that we want. We're at about 80%, and we're just not sure we can get up to the 95 or 99% that we need. So the question is, when do you kill that when after working on it for a year and a half? So I think failing quickly is fine, and you also have to not beat people up when you fail quickly. Our time is the most important thing, probably more than the financial assets that we're putting into projects.
DB, more about kind of I know you do a lot of different things within Y. How does your role as Chief Brand Officer differentiate from kind of a more traditional CMO role?
The CBO role is more expansive than the CMO role. Every visual or verbal articulation of the brand rolls through the CBO. And so marketing is certainly a piece of that. And I think for our culture, it just is a better fit for my talent and also what was needed at the time, and also just having a real partnership with the rest of the teams.
With active customer communities and millions of 5-star reviews, it's clear that as Chief Brand Officer, DB has successfully articulated who Y Brands is and what they have to offer. Cultivating such deep consumer engagement is both art and science, so I asked DB to share the secret behind building the kind of meaningful connections that Munchkin and Curio have achieved with their customers.
I think the connective tissue between why brands, well, Munchkin specifically in this case, and our consumer is listening. And I don't think anyone has a successful business unless they listen to their consumers. And so I try to build everything we're doing around a listening model. And Steve just told you about the reviews. It's a distinct difference between us and other companies. I think our social media platforms, they're very, very vocal on our social media. We don't buy followers so that we can have authentic conversation with them. I think it's really important to do that. I also think our customer service is very active in their feedback and telling us what customers want, what's been problematic for them. I think it's unusual to have such a big customer service team in-house. So we're very proud of them because they win a lot of awards on their engagement, and that's in listening measurement. Ideas like a podcast, I pitched that 6 years ago when I think there were only 2 branded podcasts at that time, Trader Joe's and P&G, and they were largely really just a form of monetization, which we've never done. So I looked at that as an extension of the conversation that we're having with them and just a way to give back love to them that they've given to us and to really define ourselves as a one-stop shop for expertise on all things parenting. On a podcast, you may not hear from the people, your listeners, but we do. And I get a lot of ideas about content and what they're really interested in finding out about or who they're interested in listening to. So building that connective tissue with our consumers has been not just through our products, but services too.
And now everybody's doing podcasts, including me. So you're way ahead of your time on that.
And Tom, that's another example where accounting may have chimed in on what's the ROI on a podcast. And you can't put a price on trying to build that connection with your consumer. So I've just been incredibly proud of the podcast and the quality of the information that's going to our customers.
Yeah, if too many finance people are running a company, you lose the ability to do things that can really connect with your customer because of dollars and cents, and they're not thinking about how to further that bond. Steve, when you think about why and how you're thinking about growing the business from here, is there room for M&A in your plan? I have to think the industry is somewhat fragmented. How do you think about M&A or your growth in general?
Well, Tom, in the last 12 months, we've closed on 2 acquisitions, and we'll be creating 1 new category, entering a second category. I think there's a lot of opportunity for consolidation. Munchkin has a slight preference for innovating and building things within. But I think there's a lot of companies out there who have a high from the COVID days. They're seeing their sales go down. We're hearing and being approached on a lot of deals, international companies, U.S. companies. Acquisitions will certainly be part of our model. Part of DB's idea for Why Brands, again, is to create an umbrella where we can bring in other businesses. And we have some moonshots we're working on that will create new businesses within Munchkin, separate from Curio and the Munchkin business. So stay tuned.
How do you think about technology? Everything is AI this, AI that, and there's a lot of technology creeping into different products. How do you approach that, and how does the team at RD8 approach it?
Well, I think it's one of the biggest trends. You had the internet, you had the microchip, you had computers, and AI is going to affect every single department within Munchkin. We're embracing and challenging every leader to incorporate AI into their business units. I don't think it's going to cause us to reduce employees. It just may change some of the things that they're working on. We're seeing incredible productivity increases in certain areas, and I can't imagine it won't be involved in every single aspect of our business.
My entire Curio holiday campaign is completely done in AI. So my team is embracing it, having an amazing time with. I usually have to bring them back in. They're just fully invested in embracing this technology. So I learn from them every single day. It's really a fun time.
Yep. And just staying with you, DB, for a minute, to be successful, you have to be culturally relevant, obviously, in a changing world. And there's chaos all over the place. How do you keep your teams like culturally relevant, and how does that fit in with the brand? Maybe chasing something that's whatever it is of the moment, but staying authentic to kind of who you are.
It's something that I deal with every day. Like yesterday, I'll give you a great example. In social media, the trend is everyone's using UGC, user-generated content. And sometimes that's compelling, and oftentimes as the head of a brand, it's challenging because a lot of the content I'm presented with, which is quote unquote on trend and may or may not have been created with AI, is not elevated enough to embrace our brand. And so how do I really balance teaching what is quote unquote on brand and perhaps not on brand with these technological changes to a new team that is embracing technology, or they're on TikTok constantly, and what works for one brand may not be appropriate for our brand. And so that's something I'm dealing with currently. And I think a lot of brands are actually trying to figure that piece of it out.
And Steve, as the CEO of the business and founder, how do you stay close to market trends? How are they informing your decisions about the business and kind of where to allocate resources and time and that sort of thing?
I guess the answer is almost everywhere. I went to Fortune's Brain Tech Conference in Park City and sat through a lot of speeches that I didn't necessarily completely understand, but there's always something that I can bring back from these things. So I think it's getting out of your comfort zone, trying to stay relevant, reading more. I probably read a book a week. I try to alternate between fiction and business books, but I'd say going to conferences, making connections with other industry leaders, understanding what they're working on and their problems and trends. And certainly I love listening to podcasts and trying to stay up on trends that way. I'd also say talking to retailers, asking them what they're looking for, what they've seen. A lot of our retailers say none of the other suppliers really ask us what we're looking for or have seen. Just trying to ask questions all the time.
Yeah, it's not easy to do, but if you have natural curiosity, you've got a leg up on everyone else. DB, is there an overlap between Curio and Munchkin's audiences or customers? On the surface, my reaction would be no, but there probably is, right?
That's a great question. I think it's small. I think through the data and the insight groups and focus groups we've been working with, it is quite small. And I think that's fine. That's okay with us. That's why it's a D2C brand. I think it is definitely not destined to be a mass brand, just the price point, the elevation of the design. Not everyone thinks it's at the top of their list to have a $100 bottle brush set, displayed on their counter. It is a very distinctive client base or customer base that we're targeting. And so far, so good.
Steve, what are your favorite products that you think are great that you could tell our listeners about?
Let me start with our current ones. We have a product called the Mozart Cube. It's a sleeper. A lot of musical toys just play notes, the same notes over and over, or it's if the piano plays the same notes as the violin. We created a cube that allows babies and toddlers to add and subtract each instrument, from piano to French horn to violins, allows you to add and subtract. It carries enough of a tune and a melody, but when you put them all together, it sounds like what Mozart wrote. So we try to take everything to a different level. We've got a new bottle coming out, which I think will be the best bottle that we've ever launched. We started with a bottle 30-something years ago. We have a new bottle that is my last bottle, I think. It's that good. And it'll be coming out next year.
Awesome. DB, I don't know if you had any way you would answer that question as well, if you had anything at Curio or anything that you think is just a tremendous product that people should hear about.
I love every product in Curio. I think every house needs Curio. My favorite has always been in the Munchkin line, Night Owl. I love the Night Owl. It's a nightlight. It's a Scandinavian design. I think it's timeless. It never needs any design revisions. It's perfect the way it is. I even have it in my house. I have it in my guest room. I love that it's satisfying to parents and children, and it is a conversation piece.
I wanted to ask you about CSR. You've really spearheaded that for the business. Talk generally about your philosophy there, some of the initiatives you're doing, and maybe pick one that you're most proud of at the moment? I'm sure you're proud of all of them, but maybe just pick one to talk about.
My favorite initiative is the one that Steve and I did together, which is Radiant Colors, because it is evergreen. It really started the day after the tragic death of George Floyd. And unlike many brands who've sort of pushed that to the side, which was sort of an initiative at the moment, we have held steadfast to that. We really have invested to be the change we want to see in the classroom and in the world with our youngest generation. All of our profits from our Monday.com sales on Munchkin.com go to help equip teachers to teach about inclusion and anti-racism. And so we have never backed off of that commitment and never will. I think Steve was one of the first 3 CEOs out of the gate to make a statement and a strong commitment and has stuck with it. So I'm personally most proud of that. Part of our DNA as a company to have a purpose. And so it's a responsibility and an obligation as a leader in our space to do these things. And it's a very inspiring part of the job and part of our values here.
I think, everybody's wired to get up and have success every day, but when you can have success and it helps other people out, it's just like an extra oomph to get yourself out of bed and get ready to rock and roll every day, right? Steve, so you have been doing this a while. You've led through ups and downs in the economies and all these wacky cycles from the internet bubble bursting to the financial crisis to COVID and all that. What is some advice that you would give the audience about building and growing a resilient company and kind of navigating all the crazy stuff that is totally unforeseen and you got to figure it out?
Well, I would say consistency, focus on financial discipline, make constant investments in innovation, both in good times and bad times. We see during bad times, some of our competitors really cut down on their innovation spending. We tend to add fuel to the fire during bad times. And most importantly, I think, continue the development of your people to drive growth. Be a good listener, be curious, and I guess learn from your mistakes. Don't repeat them, but it's also okay to celebrate them. And I love failing quickly.
Make a lot of little ones and learn, right? What's something you wish someone had told you about being the CEO of a company when you kind of first started out?
I think I really beat myself up over mistakes early on. And I think the failing quickly and okay to fail and learning from them is important. I guess, secondly, I would have advised myself early on to build a network of, let's call it advisors or industry people that I can lean on and chat with and get advice from. There's a CEO of a, company almost Munchkin size, and he and I have established a great relationship over 20 years where we talk quarterly, and, it's probably like a therapy session for me. It just, I really look forward to it every quarter, and I wish I had 2 or 3 more like that.
Yeah. How about you, DB? Is there maybe a challenge that you encountered that you overcame? What kind of got you to where you are today?
My first couple of jobs doing pretty much what I do here, I think engendering design as a value was the biggest challenge that I had beyond the obvious challenge of being the only woman in the room most of the time, which, it's an obvious challenge for most women executives. But I think making the transition and learning how to engender design as a value and a strategy really helped me understand where I wanted to land, which is where I am right now, which is where that's completely unnecessary and it's expected. That was the biggest challenge that I no longer, thankfully, have to conquer.
Why Brands is sidestepping the competition and blending meaningful market insights with quick action to deliver products that truly improve the homes and lives of the families they serve. They know a great idea when they see it because they listen to what their customers want, and they reward innovation wherever they find it. Their ecosystem model lets the brands grow independently while still sharing in the larger vision, strengthening each other's success. It's a dynamic approach that helps them stay agile with market trends while positioning them to lead, adapt, and grow sustainably into the future. At Welcome to the Arena from ICR, we're working really hard to bring you exciting guests and great content. If you found this episode insightful, please subscribe to the show on your podcast app and leave us a 5-star rating. The more the show grows, the more interesting voices we can have on the podcast, and in turn, that should demystify a lot of the stakeholders around public companies and soon-to-be public companies. Thank you so much for listening. It was great to have Steve and DB on the show today. They've set a high bar for why brands with Munchkin and Curio, and they're continuing to drive growth and create strong M&A opportunities with their customer-first attitude and culture of innovation. This is Tom Ryan. We'll see you next time back in the arena.
References to specific stocks are not intended to be recommendations for specific trading behavior. Comments presented on this podcast are intended for informational and educational purposes only, and do not represent opinions or recommendations on whether to buy, sell, or hold shares of a particular stock. All investors are advised to conduct their own independent research into individual stocks before making a trading decision. In addition, investors are advised that past stock performance is no guarantee of future price performance.